what should you do with 50k, or what I would do with 50k. Now, if you're someone with this money sat in the bank, or you're someone that's looking to get into property, it all depends on where you really see yourself in the next, 5 to 6 years. Because if you've got 50k, you can go and buy a buy to let. You could get into a buy refurbish refinance deal. You could do a flip deal. You could begin a rent to rent company. You could start deal sourcing. There's loads of things you can do. Now, it all depends on your goals and your long term goals. But I'm going to go through in this video what, the options that you've got if you've got 50k. Now, if you're someone who has recently got a cash flow business, or you've got a cash flow business, then you can look at buying. If you are someone that wants to get into buying, then you can look at flipping. Because one thing I will say is, if you've got 50k and you're going to use a BRRR, you're typically going to leave some money in a deal. So unless you've got a cash flow business, or you've got loads of savings, more than 50k, or you can raise finance, then BRRR is going to be a more longer term strategy for you. So again, all depends on how quickly you want to move and what you're kind of looking for. So I'm going to go through some options by year, and yeah, hopefully you're going to find them useful. So what strategies can we use? There's many strategies you can use, but I'm just going to go through a few here, right, guys? So first of all, we've got deal sourcing. Deal sourcing is where you will find a property deal, then you will package it up and you'll sell it on to an investor. So these deals could be a flip deal where you'll go and view the property, or you've got a good agent on board. They've sent you a property, so you can get it for this price. You'd break it down, so you'd have purchase price, renovation cost, all your other fees that are included, the end value. Then you'd present it to an investor, and they would say yes or no and buy the property. And then they'll either flip the property, or they'll keep it and refinance it, or they may not refinance it. You can also sell rent-to-rent deals, where you'll find the rent-to-rent, package it up, and sell it on to an investor. Same with land, same with everything, right? So this is a great strategy to get started in. And I'm just going to go over some of the pros first, actually. So if you're just getting started, you are gaining a skill of finding deals for the future. So if you can see yourself being in property for the long run, so you want to get into property, you're going to be involved in it for 15, 25, 30 years, then deal sourcing is a great place to start, because it takes you down to the nitty gritty, how to break down deals, how to understand renovations, building relationships earlier on. And again, it is a lower barrier to entry, so it doesn't really cost much to become a deal sourcer. Obviously, you're going to need to get educated. Now, if education is something that you're looking for, guys, you click the link in my description. We can maybe have a conversation there about education. But it's low barrier to entry. Doesn't cost too much to become compliant, to become a deal sourcer, but you do need the knowledge, especially if you're going to be going into BRRRs and flips, because investors are going to be investing a lot of money with you, and you need to know how to do everything properly. So another pro is chunks of cash. So when you sell a deal, you typically get paid anything from 3,000 up to 8 to 10,000, depending on the deal. Obviously, if you're looking at more higher end deals, 5 or 6 to 8 to 10 bedroom HMOs, then you're going to be charging a little bit more, depending on whether you're having a project management fee in there too. You can charge a project management fee if you are going to do that or offer that service. And another pro is it's going to force you to build your network early. So building a network when you're earlier on or starting in property is so important, and to be around people who are doing what you want to do, or people with the experience that you can lean on to get the knowledge and the know-how to actually go and do this properly. Also, you're building relationships with estate agents, with investors. So you may sell a deal to an investor, and they may really take a liking to you. And this has happened with myself. You've provided a good service, proof of concept, and now instead of selling them another deal, they're happy to joint venture with you. They're happy to put the money into a deal and flip the deal. So suddenly now, instead of you making 5,000 or 8,000, you're going to make 15 or 20,000 when you flip the property and make a profit. Yeah. Few cons here It's a very competitive market if you are looking to get into it. Now, you need to understand your USP, so your unique selling point. What separates you from everyone else? Why would someone want to come and work with you rather than, for instance, me? How are you going to be? What angle are you going to come at that's going to be better than mine? Requires time to get investors and deals. So again, this is not a strategy that you're going to learn in a week and suddenly you're going to be selling 3, 4, 5 deals a month. Doesn't work like that. It takes time to build these relationships, get in front of investors, and obviously get the right deals for them. Can be inconsistent depending on deals. So if you're looking to replace an income, then you want to know that you're going to be consistently selling these deals all the time. So to get to that stage, you've got to build the credibility to be able to go and do it. It's not impossible because obviously I ended up leaving my job to become a full-time deal sourcer, but it took me a long time to get there. But I guess if I had known what I knew after the 9 or 10 months that it took me to sell a deal, I would have got there a lot quicker. But again, it does, require time. Can it be inconsistent if you're not getting the right deal flow? Then yeah, of course it can. But it's all about filling your pipeline with the right deals and being creative in how you're going to be selling deals. Next strategy we got here is rent to rent. So another strategy that I've done, we've currently got 20 units under management now. Real good for cash flow. And I'm going to get into some pros here. So again, low startup cost. If you've got 50K, then this won't be a problem for you to start building a rent to rent portfolio, because if you're finding deals yourself, you're not paying a sourcing fee, you're not paying a staging fee. You are going to be in for a deal for anything up to £5,000 to £6,000, depending on furnishing. You may get a property that's part furnished. You may get a property that's not furnished. Understanding that is really good and really important as well. It is very scalable after one unit. So you have the proof of concept that you can go and do it once. You may fall on a landlord that has got 15 properties and they go, do you know what? I've got one. I'm going to give you an opportunity here. If you provide a good service and they can see, that opens doors for you. If you can provide a good service for landlords and estate agents, then they're automatically going to start pitching landlords for you, other landlords. Referrals are going to start coming in. If you pitch an estate agent once, you've only got to pitch the right agent once, and you have a good relationship, and you can start selling deals and taking on loads of deals. But it's knowing how to speak to these letting agents so that they're actually going to want to work with you, right? You can profit £500 to £1,500 a month on a property. Now, this all again depends on if you're getting in the right location, you're getting it for the right rent, and you know that your nightly rates are going to be there. Again, comes with due diligence. Cons. So, when you're renting a property from a landlord, you are going to be paying their mortgage and obviously their profit on top. So they may have a mortgage of say £500, but they also want to make £400 or £500. So you're going to be paying £1,000 then. So obviously, if you were going to own the property, you're only going to be paying a mortgage and the bills. When there's a rent to rent, you're going to be paying the rent, which is inflated rather than just the mortgage. Requires front load work to get everything systemized front end and obviously set up your unit and everything like that. But this will take some time to set up your listings properly. Know that you understand your profit pricing, understand everything, how you're going to actually operate as a unit or as a company, who you're going to be marketing to, who's your ideal avatar that you're going to be marketing to, how many people can you get in the property, is there parking? There's loads of things that requires front load systemizing and understanding, so to speak. Another con is that the landlord owns the asset, so they have control in essence. Now, obviously, when you're pitching them, you're going to be going for 3 to 5 year leases if you can, but there's always an uncertainty with rent to rent that a landlord could turn around to you and say, "Look, I've got to sell the property." That is a common concern, but have I had or come across this yet? No. We're coming up to 3 years in the business now, and all of our landlords have done nothing but refer us to other landlords and scream and shout about how good our service is. Now, another thing to understand is what type of landlord are you dealing with? Because if you're dealing with a tired landlord, they're going to be happy with their rent every single month, year on year on year. It may go up a little bit, or with inflation, they may want to put it up a tad every year. Perfectly fine if it still works for you. So understanding that the landlord owns the full asset is obviously key. They are in full control. But if you're providing a good service all the time, then they're going to have no reason to take their property off you. Moving on to some other strategies. So if you've got 50K, you can get into BRRR or flip. So the pros of flipping. So you're going to have to utilize bridging if you're going to be buying a property to sell. Unless you're buying up north and you're buying something for 30,000 and you can spend 20,000 there. But in the grand scheme of things, you're probably going to be using bridging. So you can make profit when you buy and sell. You can have a proof of concept that you can do this to investors, to anyone around you, that you've done a flip, you've made a profit. Do you now want to come and join venture with me? Or do you want to put money into a deal and I'll be the sweat equity and I'll go and do everything? It's another thing that, if you, it depends on how you want to angle this and how far you want to take it, really. Because if you want to show everyone what you're doing to raise finance, then getting into a flip will push you a little bit further forward than what you did if you went into a rent-to-rent, for instance. So again, it all depends on the angle that you want to come at it from. Again, one flip here can replace a yearly salary. So if you're earning 25 or 30 grand a year, but you could buy a property, you have 50 grand saved, you could buy a property and sell a property for £40,000, and it took you a year, for instance, that can replace your income. But it's all about knowing what properties you're going to be buying, understanding the end values and renovation costs too. So a few cons that come with flipping. You may, if it's one of your first deals, you may not get as much profit as you expected. You may undervalue the renovation. So if you don't understand renovation costs, then you may undervalue some stuff here. And worst case, you may get stuck on a bridge. If you can't sell it or you end up running way over with the renovation, that's if you're on a bridge. So if you're using bridging, always make sure that, you're going to put it on a 12-month term typically, but make sure that you're front loading everything in aspects of, you're going to get straight to work on the property. As soon as you complete, you're going to have a build team in there, or you're going to start doing the rip out of the project management yourself, and make sure you get it done properly, but as fast as you can, really, because the longer that you're sat on that bridge, the longer the bridging company will start, reaching out to you. How are you doing? What's the updates? Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, you want to make sure that you get stuff done quickly if you are looking to flip the property. Different if you're going to use BRRR, because as soon as you're coming towards the end of your renovation, you're going to be putting in for a refinance. Another strategy or another strategy that we could use is the BRRR. So if you've got 50K, you could get into a BRRR deal. And the pros here, you own an asset. So depending on what you want to do back end for your cash flow every single month, whether you're going to run it as a single let, whether you're going to run it as a HMO, whether you're going to run it as an Airbnb, a social housing unit, there's loads of things you can do. But in essence, this property is now going to be bringing you in passive income if you run it correctly. Another pro is you're going to get capital appreciation. So you're putting your money into an asset that is going to be going up in value every single year on year on year. And even if you run it as a single let, you may not be getting £800 a month, or you may not be getting as big of a return if you were to run it as an Airbnb or HMO. But every single month that you own that property, you're building in capital appreciation. You're not seeing the money, but then when it comes 5 years down the line and you end up remortgaging the property, but then that's your chunk of your money coming back to you. Instead of you seeing it every single month, you're seeing it at the remortgage stage instead. Cons, if you've got 50k, again, you may leave money in the deal, more than you expect. So you could be back to square one where you're saving again. Now, unless you use that property to get a proof of concept to investors, to show investors, to try and raise some money, then it could go a little bit south in regards to you getting your end values, and that may result in you leaving more money than you expected in the deal. So you may end up leaving 25 or 35,000 pound in a deal, and then that's going to leave you with just 15 grand. So understanding that is so important, because if you're going to leave all that money in a deal, then where's that going to leave you for your next steps? If that makes sense. Because if you're going to leave all that money in the deal, then what are you going to do next? If you've got £15,000, you're typically not going to be able to buy an investment property with £15,000. You're going to have to try and raise some money from elsewhere. And another thing that obviously we need to make sure that you have on lock really is renovations. Understanding how these work properly, and never undervalue a renovation. So, always have a contingency in mind, but you need to know the full breakdown of what actually goes behind the renovation. Depends how big the renovation is also going to be. So guys, that was just a breakdown of strategies that you could use if you do have 50k to invest. Now, if you're really looking to get started, make sure to reach out to me. Hopefully I can help. And yeah, I shall see you on the next one, guys.